We've got a magic number for the Valkyries, folks. Sophia Jones joins me every Monday, unless something comes up, in which case you follow us on social media to learn more. But, folks, this is the last week of the WNBA regular season, correct, Sophia? Pretty much, sort of?
Last 2 weeks.
Last 2 weeks, okay.
Yeah.
But we got a magic number for an expansion team, unprecedented. That is what your Valkyries are doing this season. We're going to talk about that. And we're also going to have a Warriors topic because I know you folks love your Dubs, and this has been an insanely inactive offseason. So we're trying to be creative with our topics. Stephen Curry, the man turns 38 this year, and it's a very uncomfortable topic to broach. But again, 38. The oldest finals MVP in NBA history was 35. Does he still have it? Is he still at the peak of his powers? Are we starting to see maybe a slight decline? And what does that mean for your Warriors in general? Let's talk about it. Sophia, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Even though you just finished back-to-back broadcasts with the second one involving a power issue, a shot clock, you're still good to go. You're pumped? You got caffeine? Where do you get your extra reserves from? Is it adrenaline? Is it something chemical? Just pure spirit?
I actually didn't have any caffeine today. I guess just good sleep. I took these lion's mane gummies, sleep gummies that help. Lion's mane is a mushroom. It's herbal medicine.
You do what you gotta do to make it in this crazy world, and hopefully we can lighten up a little bit. Happy Labor Day! It is Labor Day today, and this is the Golden Day.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. Leave me alone this summer.
Woo! Let's go. In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up.
Welcome to this program we call the Golden Days. On Mondays, we added an extra name to it. We call it V for Valkyries because we, in addition to the Golden State Warriors, we also talk about the Golden State Valkyries, the WNBA team featured here in the San Francisco Bay Area. It is their expansion season. We'll give some love to our sponsors in just a minute because I want to dive right into this. And obviously, we're going to talk about Steph, some interesting figures that came out of that in regards to research on the soon-to-be 38-year-old megastar. But Sophia Jones, first of all, people can follow you on Twitter at SophiaJones_2. You can follow me, Cyrus Sotzes, on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild. Over on Twitter, my handle is at Surf Journalist. The program on both platforms at Golden Days Pod. The Golden State Valkyries, Sophia. Before I even do that, how are you doing? You good? How's life?
I'm doing well. Been calling a lot of games. Naomi Osaka just won in the US Open in the round of 16. She beat Coco Gauff. So as someone who has been rooting for Naomi for a long time, that actually has me a little pumped. Although I do feel for Coco. I wish they never had to play each other ever, only in the final. But yeah,
so I'm a huge tennis junkie real fast, and that just we're recording this as that just finished up. Did Coco Gauff commit way too many double faults?
A couple double faults. Honestly, a lot of unforced errors with that forehand. Yeah.
I don't like seeing tennis like that. You know, I want winners. Like I want good long rallies. I want one person beating.
You know what? There was some really good rallies that I think Naomi just powered through. She has some great winners, so I'm happy to see her elevate her game.
You know, Naomi Osaka, like she was on track to being like an all-time great at the beginning of her career, and then just what happened? You know, like because she got I don't know what the right word is, distracted, life events got in the way. But like, what happened there that she's now finally seems to be getting back on track? In your opinion?
Well, I know she stepped away from the game for a bit to just focus on her mental health. She's been a huge advocate for athletes across all sports, mental health. And she, of course, had her daughter. She talks about how her daughter, how much she loves her. And even despite whatever happens in tennis, she knows that she can go back to go back to her daughter and just experience that love. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see her experience some of that love back on the tennis court now as well.
Yeah, and it's showing, right? I mean, she's beating number 3 seeded players like Coco Gauff. That's incredible. We're not here to talk about the U.S. Open, even though you and I are both seem to love tennis. Did you ever watch that movie, The Challengers? By the way,
I did. I did.
I'm not going to give. Yeah, go ahead.
I really enjoyed it. I love
I
the
did
score.
too. Yeah.
I love the score. I liked how like the different like shots and cinematography. I think those are some of my favorite parts.
The only my one critique of that film, I was enjoying it until the absolute very last scene. I hated that part. And I'll leave it at that. I don't
Okay.
appreciate the way they ended that film. That really pissed me off. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember
I
now?
think I do, yeah.
Yeah, come on, like let's have a real finish to a film. I'll leave it at that. If you've seen the movie yourself, you could add your thoughts in our chat. We're not talking again. Tennis is not the focus of the show. NBA and WNBA basketball is. The Golden State Valkyries. They're in the middle of a 5-game home. Are you ready to move on from the topic? I don't mean to like.
Yeah, no, I am. Yeah.
Okay. So the Golden State Valkyries, they're in the midst of a 5-game homestand. Games 1 and 2 of that homestand was this past weekend, and these were pivotal games. The Mystics were in the hunt, at least before this weekend, for a postseason berth that clearly did not happen. Sophia, let's start with a recap of the back-to-backs this weekend that the Valkyries were victorious in. Break it down for us in terms of what went down those 2 games and how the Valkyries now look coming out of starting off this homestand 2-0.
On Saturday, they hosted the Washington Mystics and they beat the Mystics 99-62. And that 37-point margin of victory is the largest of the season, which of course is in turn largest in franchise history. They were led by Janelle Salon. She finished with 20 points, and that game was actually really important to blow the other team out because being on the front end of a back-to-back, no one played over 29 minutes. It was Janelle Salon who had those 29 minutes. So a lot of starters got to rest, and that rest paid off yesterday against the Indiana Fever, who they beat 75-63, which, again, it was a game that experienced a lot of stoppages because there's a power outage earlier in the day at Chase Center that then caused some clock issues. They had to use a portable game clock that they had on the baseline for the first half and just turn the clocks on the baskets off. Second half, it was much smoother, but still, the runtime from tip to buzzer was 2 hours and 38 minutes, which for a 40-minute basketball game is a lot.
Well, to provide some perspective, how long typically start to end does a WNBA game go?
Typically, it'll be 2 hours, maybe
Okay.
even a little less.
All right, so 38 extra minutes. Now, granted, those 38 minutes were non-action. So,
Yes.
how is the crowd entertained? Is this where Violet steps in?
Yeah, Violet, the MC Airy, she did a great job. Just a lot of trying to play good music, show people on the Jumbotron so they kept dancing and stuff. But I've never experienced anything like that on a broadcast, but I felt like the energy in the building still matched up to what the game needed when play was resumed in action. And of course, whenever you play the Indiana Fever, even though Caitlin Clark was inactive, there's such a draw.
And what's going on with that? Like I feel like the entire season has just been Caitlin Clark wearing street clothes. Like it's just one, and these are all minor injuries, but they seem to be just compounding one after the other. Like what kept her out of this last game? And are we going to see her again?
It's been a groin injury, I believe. And because what happened was she made her return to play and then re-aggravated that same injury. And I think that's why this time around, the medical staff for the funeral are just trying to be extra cautious, and the coaching staff. From what I've heard, she's been ramping up. There's no timetable on return, but they hope, I want to say, that she is able to play before the end of the season.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the standings right now, Sophia. The Valkyries. Is it time? Like, I know you said so. We've got these sound effects now that my virtual studio has added. Although I don't know if you're hearing it. When we were testing this out on the pregame or pre-show meeting. I'm sorry. So for example, if I do a drum roll, you can't hear that.
I just heard it actually.
Oh, okay. So we're good.
Yeah.
All right. So the sound effects are working. So I like that. So we got a few sound effects here. The crass one is this. It's supposed to be a fountain, but we can use that for a few different things. We got a laugh. We got, if you have a popular opinion, Chardall, that won't be yours, I promise. We have a song. I don't know what we'd use that for, actually, but we have one. We have an applause. And then we have, and I'm going to add some more in the near future, and we have a drum roll. I'm going to use this drum roll, Sophia, because I love hearing this for one of my teams. And I am going to say the Valkyries are my team. I'm a Bay Area born and raised resident. I grew up loving the Warriors. I will officially adopt the Valkyries as my WNBA team. I already have. They're my team. I'm rooting for them. I'm a fan. And I can't, it's so poetic. It's so beautiful to have the two words magic number associated with your basketball team. Sophia Jones, the Golden State Valkyries have a magic number. That magic number is
3.
oh!
So we received word going into the game yesterday that the Golden State Valkyries needed to win 2 games and the Los Angeles Sparks needed to lose 2 games to officially be in the playoffs. And so now I say, so before yesterday's game, that magic number, like I said, was 4, but now it's 3 because the Valkyries have picked up a win. So they just need one more win and 2 more Los Angeles Sparks losses to get into the playoffs. And looking at the Valkyries schedule, they have some tough opponents, but you have the Dallas Wings in there. And Dallas Wings have dealt with so many injuries throughout the course of the season. Valkyries have had some really great success against them. It's at home this Thursday, September 4th. So I think that needs to be the game that Valkyries circle. But other than that, they play the New York Liberty tomorrow, Minnesota Lynx on Saturday, Seattle Storm next Tuesday, and then the Minnesota Lynx next Thursday. I think that if also potentially that Minnesota Lynx game, the second one, because Minnesota already has the number 1 playoff seed clinched, they might rest some players. Kayla McBride is already resting today for their game. So that could be a trend that hopefully grants the Valkyries a little bit of grace. But even the New York Liberty tomorrow, New York has dealt with a lot of injuries. There's been a lot of instability that I think has led to a couple of dropped games, and they've slipped in the loss column.
And these are the standings right here. I hope you folks can see this on your screens if you're watching on YouTube. And Sophia, you're doing a fantastic job elaborating audibly for the podcast audience. And again, you're the color analyst on the radio side for the Golden State Valkyries. So no surprise there that you're articulating clearly. But yeah, we look at the standings there. And with the Valkyries having a magic number of 3, they're 3 games above 500. That's the highest they've been all season, correct?
Tied for the highest, yes.
Okay. And we were a week ago, we were like jokingly talking about how like you could literally bet. Let's give some love to FanDuel right now because 1 week ago we were talking about how the odds, courtesy of FanDuel, if you wanted to bet on the Valkyries to reach 25 wins on the season, they were giving you absurd odds on that. And let me see if those odds are still there. I think it was plus 2,500, if I remember correctly. And clearly those odds are going to be there now because the Valkyries are that much closer to reaching that mark. Let me see if those futures are still there. They took those futures off. That's funny. A week ago, you could have cashed in on the Valkyries reaching the 25 win mark. They're now 21-18. Sophia, and that would have entailed them running through the schedule, losing just 1 game the rest of the way. They haven't lost yet. Can they reach 25 wins? That would be absurd. And I'd love to bring someone on if you actually put money on that. But Sophia, so the remaining schedule, do you mind repeating that? I know you covered that once, but let's go through that game by game, please, because it's only a week and a half left in the schedule. Can they get to 25? Well, what's in the way?
So New York Liberty tomorrow, Dallas Wings Thursday, Minnesota Lynx Saturday, Seattle Storm next Tuesday, Minnesota Lynx again next Thursday. They could get it. So with 21, they would need to win 4 more games, so you can only drop one of those. Those are just some really tough teams.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't put it past this squad. I would also say that for the Valkyries, I think that they've also erred on the side of caution when it comes to players returning to play. Coach Nakase said that if her players aren't feeling 100% before a game, she's not going to play them. And so I think that if the Valkyries can clinch playoffs early in this next 2 weeks remaining of the schedule, then they might actually want to take a little bit of rest as well. But crazier things have happened.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as you mentioned again, the team has 5 games remaining on their schedule. If they go 4-1, they reach the 25 win mark. And you can bet on all that action with FanDuel, which is phenomenal. I love how involved they are with the WNBA. And Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong on this, they've clinched home court. They've clinched the best record in the WNBA, correct?
Correct.
So is there a possibility, because one of the biggest impediments from what I see in terms of the Valkyries finishing out this season on a tear to hit that 25 win mark. And again, this is just us having fun talking. I highly doubt in the Valkyries locker room that they're discussing the 25 win mark. They're going one game at a time. I'm having fun here. But realistically, so the last 5 games, New York, that's a tough one. And I imagine New York's going to put up a fight. Dallas, you mentioned a second ago, one of the worst teams in the WNBA record-wise, but they do have Paige Beckers. They do have some young talent on that team. They do have Mr. Man Bun as their head coach. That's plenty of laughs there that guy provides. Minnesota, and then you got 2 of the last 3 games in the season against Minnesota. And from your opinion, I know you can't answer this accurately. It's impossible because we're talking about the future. We're talking about a team who will not reveal their plans. In your opinion, though, Sophia, is Minnesota gonna go gung-ho those final 3 games? Because the Valkyries play them 2 out of the last 3. They have everything clinched. They have nothing to play for except maybe just keeping a rhythm going into the postseason. Are they going to rest players for those games? Do you think they're going to go all out? Your thoughts?
I think we could see some players rest. I mentioned today, I believe the Minnesota Lynx play the Dallas Wings, and they are already resting Kayla McBride. She's one of their all-stars. So that's someone that we're seeing resting. And just with the amount of injuries that are so quick that pop up, Nafisa Collier was out a couple weeks because of a sprained ankle. So that's something that you want to make sure she's fresh come playoff time. And I would say with that 31 wins, that is also a franchise season high in wins for the Minnesota Lynx. So you talk about having nothing to play for. They already set a franchise record.
Deserve it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. So I could really see them potentially maybe not resting, like completely having some of their players sit out, but like you mentioned, the rhythm, maybe just have a minutes restriction.
There you go. And let's hope that minutes restriction. Look, again, I'm discussing all this with a large level of frivolity because the 25 wins. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is because a week ago, FanDuel posted, I think, plus 2,500 odds for someone to bet on that. We talked about it a week ago. If anyone put money down on that, bravo. I'd love to hear from you. Even though California still does not allow FanDuel, and that's a whole other issue. I really wish I could play with that app. It looks so much fun. I understand gambling is potentially dangerous. Please do so responsibly. But if you do so responsibly, it is fun, and you can even win some money. The smart ones do win money. This is why I want FanDuel at my fingertips. I feel like it could be like a secondary source of income for me. Damn you, state of California, for restricting my fun and my additional revenue stream. I digress. Someone in the chat brought up real quickly here. Bruce Morrow, that Natalie Nakase deserves Coach of the Year. I really wish FanDuel was listing Coach of the Year as one of the odds. One of the awards, you can bet on. The only things you can bet on at this point with FanDuel regarding the WNBA and individual awards is a regular season MVP. Nafisa Collier is the overwhelming favorite, minus 900. Asia Wilson, plus 500. And Alyssa Thomas is third at plus 8,000, which basically means she's out of the running. But I understand some people having gripes about that. I hear chatter from a lot of fans in regards to Alyssa Thomas saying she's being disrespected, that she's not getting the accolades she deserves. She is having a hell of a season, Sophia. If you don't mind just breaking down why you think she's not getting the respect that maybe she deserves, your thoughts on that topic.
Well, starting off with her play, she consistently is the league leader in triple doubles, and that has not changed this year. She's leading that category significantly. And just for that type of player, when you watch her play, she breaks down defenses like not many other players in basketball can do, just with her vision, her scoring ability, and with those rebounds, her defense. She'll just grab a board and push. The Mercury right now, they're fourth in the standings. So I think that could be where some people look towards winning teams a little bit for these postseason awards, which is why Nafisa Collier, she's the best player on the best team. And Asia Wilson, Asia's been playing outstanding. She's had a ton of 20-point, 10 rebound days, a couple 30-point. She had a 30-point, 20 rebound, a couple 30-point, 10 rebounds. So she's been dominating post All-Star break. I'm surprised that the gap is that large. I think Nafisa still might be in a run. It might be the front runner because I say she's the best player on the best team.
Right.
But Asia, it's hard to watch her play and not think that this is one of the best players in the WNBA.
Well, and I think she's partly a victim of what LeBron James has experienced. Kobe was a different beast because his relationship with the media was very frayed, and that affected his MVP award voting numerous seasons that I thought he deserved it. Look, superstar players are held to very different standards, and Asia Wilson is a perfect example of that. Like if she has the start she did this season, right? That was not perfect. That did not reach Asia Wilson's standards. She's going to get a ding for that. That's the sad reality of being that good. But her accomplishments are reflected as well in the standings, because the Las Vegas Aces, there was a point in this season where they were below the Valkyries in the standings. And it was a good chunk of the year. It's almost like the entire first half of the season, right?
Yes.
And to see them now second in the WNBA, to see them on a winning streak, that's 12. They're on a 12-game winning streak right now, so they're second in the WNBA standings. To put it in perspective for you, their current record is 26-14, which means before the winning streak started, they were a 500 team. And we were joking on this show about how Becky Hammond just had the meanest scowls this season. Like, I've never seen her that unhappy in my life. Walking up and down the sidelines of a basketball court as the head coach of the Aces. And now a 12-game winning streak changes everything. And suddenly they're second in the standings. Asia Wilson, as you mentioned, is back in the MVP hunt. But I do think Nafisa Collier is going to win it ultimately, just because the MVP race represents the beginning to end type body of work. And like you said, best player in the best team. Anything you want to add?
No, just kind of what you said. I think the beginning of the season for the Las Vegas Aces are what hurt Asia's MVP campaign
Exactly.
because they were just a 500 team. They fell a couple games below sometimes, didn't get that far above. I mean, Asia did deal with some injuries. I believe she was out on concussion protocol at one point, had a wrist injury. So she was dealing with that stuff. But like you said, I think you put it perfectly. From start to finish, Minnesota has been the most dominant team, and Fee is the most dominant player on that team.
Yeah, and the Valkyries played them 2 out of 3 games to finish the season, which is kind of crazy. I imagine the Valks will have everything clinched by then. I could be mistaken, but 3 games remaining, and I'm guessing, Sophia, the sellout streak continues, right?
Of course it does.
That's crazy. So that's wild. So that the Valkyries are going to finish their expansion season with a sellout streak. There's a very distinct possibility that Valkyries will never not sell out Chase Center, and that's crazy. Makes me think of just childhood memories. And what I mean by that is, I think any of us who are basketball fans, who are adults, most of us, and everyone's different. Clearly, you got different backgrounds. I'm speaking generally, but most of us who are just basketball junkies, we grew up playing, right? And maybe you played organizationally. Maybe you just grew up playing on your local blacktop or a local gym somewhere, whatever your background is. You grew up playing. You grew up loving the sport. And you suddenly become an adult, and it's something you've been familiar with your whole life, and the love continues. And it's crazy to think about, let's say, like an 8-year-old girl, and this is her first season following the Valkyries. Every day that passes, she falls more and more in love with this team. Someday that 8-year-old is going to be 28, right? So 20 years in the future, like the fact that 20 years from now, this individual who's now 28 will still be following a team that has never not sold out that arena. That is a very real possibility, and that's crazy to me. It's wild what the Golden State Warriors organization created here with the Valkyries now. And Joe Lacob, you deserve your flowers for that. Sophia, this is a very cynical take. Let me know what you think about this thought, because Joe Lacob is a borderline wizard when it comes to entertainment, and I briefly broached this subject on social media in a joking manner, and I included a GIF of the Wizard of Oz guy being behind the curtain, kind of like running everything, and he's like, "Oh, I got to close the curtain so people don't see that the magic is not really magic." But is Joe Lacob, what I'm trying to get to here is Joe Lacob a wizard marketing wise, in the sense that could we get Jonathan Kuminga news? Could we get all this free agent news the moment the Valkyrie season is over? Meaning, is there a potential conspiracy behind the scenes to hold off on decisions being announced so that all the attention is on the Valkyries, and then the moment the season ends, we suddenly find a million things out? Is that a possibility? Am I being a conspiracy, cynical type individual here? Your thoughts, Sophia?
I really can't say, because I mean, they also had the opportunity to break news during the WNBA All-Star break, if we're using that same logic, where there was no play and things were a little quiet. Yeah, I really can't say. But I mean,
I know.
So for the Valkyries, their last game of the regular season is September 11th, and we think about playoff time that runs into early October. NBA season is right around the corner, so depending how far the Valkyries make it, they could be pushing a lot of news back, if that's the conspiracy.
All I'm saying is right now there is no attention on the Warriors other than just, the non-story being a story. Who knows? And again, I could be just completely full of S-bomb here. I'm just spitballing, throwing ideas, throwing crap against the wall and seeing what sticks. I don't think that's going to stick ultimately. But before we shift gears to Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors, we're going to give some love to the other sponsor of this program. We hope to have a lot more soon, as the NBA season is just around the corner. Kenneth Sakai, if I got that correctly, is in the chat, is asking that you, Sophia, specifically, what your thoughts are on the Valkyries and an expansion draft this upcoming season. The Valkyries roster was built under this very premise of an expansion draft. This is what happens when new teams come into the fold. The other organizations have to protect certain players and then expose others to be taken by this expansion team. And supposedly what Kenneth writes is that the Valkyries are only going to be able to protect 6 players in the expansion draft. Sophia, in your opinion, who will those 6 be? And I'm glad Yosite was brought up. I'm going to bring her up in just a second a little more because we haven't mentioned her name, the Valkyries' first draft pick ever. She was in town a couple weeks ago. I totally forgot about that. But first and foremost, the expansion draft. Your thoughts, Sophia?
Yeah, I really could not say who I think the 6 players will be. Coach Nakase has talked about it even when she's had to waive players that she feels almost like a mom to this group, and
Yeah.
it's like giving up a kid. So I can imagine that same thought process is behind who will be decided to protect in this upcoming expansion draft. I mean, if it was up to me, I wouldn't waive anyone in the Valkyrie season. I wish we could keep all 20 players that have worn a Valkyries jersey, and I would protect every single one of them in the draft.
Well, let's go through this. So first of all, is it true the Valkyries can only protect 6?
Yes. So that's how it was last year, where every team going into expansion draft, they only had 6 players that they were allowed to protect.
Doesn't that feel harsh? Like that feels
But
mean.
then
Like
on the other hand, you're
Yeah.
the Golden State Valkyries this year, and
True.
you have like Tammy Fagbinley said, they have a team full of 6 women that are just used to getting the job done and doing whatever is asked of them.
That's I look, I get all of this and I follow what you're saying here, but being on the other side of the coin just a year later, I suddenly don't like it. I loved it when I know I'm being ridiculous saying all this, but like it just, I guess clearly it sucks to suddenly go from being able to cherry pick players off other teams to now seeing your own players lost. And I guess for the Valkyries, they follow a Golden State Warriors model of strength in numbers. At least that's the gist I'm getting watching this team. Natalie Nakase is not afraid to dip into her bench, to play the hot hand, to go all in with the team mantra and not just relying on stars per se. So I'm looking at, like, I feel like what I'm trying to say here is that I feel like the Valkyries are going to be bigger victims than other teams in an expansion draft like this because they rely on everyone. Is it a 12 player roster in the WNBA, Sophia?
Yes, 12 player roster.
That means half your roster is exposed when the season
Yes.
ends. So this is the easy way to do it, I think. Let's do this exercise real fast. It won't be easy, but look, this is real life, and the Valkyries are going to be faced with this. Who are the keepers here? Like, who are the 6 that we feel safe are not going to be exposed in an expansion draft? I'm going to say Monique Billings is safe, correct or no?
You know what? I really don't think I could speak on this whole situation. I don't know what is going with in the coaches and general managers' minds, but you know what? They did a great job constructing this team together, and they had the perfect vision to carry out the first inaugural season. And I have no doubt that they're going to continue to do the same. So I don't think it would be wise of me to put myself in their shoes.
Good point, and good response. Again, look, if you can't answer, just say so, and I respect that. You work for the Valkyries, and you're around these players constantly. This is not an easy question to answer. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a stab at it. You can tell me your thoughts, because again, 6 is such a small number, and I don't follow this team closely enough to pretend I'm an expert. So please don't take my word like gospel. The way I talk about the Valkyries is the way I feel like almost every other media member in this market talks about the Warriors. I hear them talk about the Warriors and I borderline cringe. That's how you should be feeling when I talk about the Valkyries. So take that for what it's worth. With that said, I look at this roster and these are the 6. And Sophia, you don't have to comment at all. You can add anything you want. I'm going to guess Monique Billings is safe. I'm going to guess Veronica Burton is safe. So that's 2. I'm going to guess Chechi is safe. Cecilia Zendelicini. I hope I pronounced that right. So that's 3.
Cecilia.
Cecilia, thank you. Chechis. I
Chechi.
did I do the last name correctly?
You did, yes.
Okay. So that's 3. Kayla Thornton would make 4. Yosite. Yuste Yosite. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yuste Yochite.
Yochite. Okay, it was a cheat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yuste Yochite makes 5. So this and is that safe? Like, would you say? Am I okay? I know you're in a tough spot here, so I'll try to question this in an easy way imaginable. Is what I said? Does what I say sound crazy, or do you think that's it's there's some rationale to that?
Looking at all the players that you mentioned, they all have great track records. You talked about Kayla Thornton, she was an all-star. Veronica Burton is one of the favorites to be most improved player. Mo Billings, she's been out these last couple weeks with an ankle injury, but she constantly brings that energy off the bench. Yochita is only 19 years old, so she's having a ton of upside. But every time I've looked at our roster, it's just felt like someone always brings something to the
Right.
table.
Yes.
And
Right.
you really never know what you're going to need in a given game or a situation. So like I said, you asked if I think those players would be safe. I say I would agree, and I think that every other player on the roster should be safe too.
Absolutely. And again, this is where it's a tough topic. But if we don't broach it, like, what are we doing here? Like that, this is the part of the media game that, and this is also why I'm not going to put you on the spot. You don't have to answer these clearly. But these are the topics that make people think. This is why ratings exist. This is what keeps people's interest is these tough decisions. These that for these players is sometimes not literally life or death, but professionally speaking, I mean, these are game-changing decisions, and it's a part of life, and it's a part of WNBA life. It's madness. So I'm going to say I think the 5 I picked are somewhat safe. I could be mistaken on that. The 6th would be the challenging one, and I'm looking at the chat. Oh, and like Kenneth Sakay, for example, says Carla and Janelle over Billings. Okay, maybe you're right. Again, this is where I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on this. Bruce Morrow saying Yosite is like a Dirk Nowitzki to me. Like, let's shift gears there, okay? Instead of causing drama and debating who that 6th player is going to be, because that is going to be a very tough decision for the Valkyries. Let's talk about hold on, Yosite. What was
Yuste Yochite.
Yuste Yochite. She came to the States and finally got a jersey introduction 2 weeks ago. And normally draft picks, like, they have a press conference and you hold up the jersey. Then this was a little unusual. They did this during, I believe, halftime or pregame of a game. You can
Pregame.
Elaborate on. It was pregame?
Yes, because the Valkyries, they have a drum, and so she was the person that beat the drum pregame, and she took a picture with our GM Ohema at half court with her jersey. So it was really, really nice to lay eyes on her for the first time.
Yeah. And real quick, before we move on, Kenneth Sakai saying your 6 would be Yochite, Lite, Rupert. Late. I'm sorry. I do that all the time. I apologize. Late, Rupert, Salon. Repair, Salon, Burden, and Zandalasini. Mostly young players. So going with youth. And look, and that could be the logic too, because case in point, some of these players that have really emerged for the Valkyries this season, Monique Billings, Veronica Burden, like, I don't know if people were predicting these players to reach the levels they did this year. And maybe the being in the Valkyrie system played a part in that. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they were expected to be.
Honestly, I think that is a complete example of the reason why the WNBA needed more expansion teams. In case in point, you have these players, such amazing talent that just sometimes don't get the right situation or opportunity. And now when you have more teams, you add more roster spots to the overall league number of players, you have more opportunities to showcase yourself. And it's good for the entire league because now you have players like a Veronica Burton, who is in the talks for being most improved player, that most people didn't, or some people weren't really aware or as aware of her name, but now her name is in the headlines almost after every single game.
Absolutely. And this leads to the Valkyries first round pick, Yuchite, and I know I pronounced that wrong again. It's going to take a long time for me to get it right. How bad did I butcher it that time, Sophia?
Yuste Yochita.
Yusta. So it's Yusta.
Yeah, it's like
Yusta
Yuste Yochita.
Yochita.
Yeah.
Yusta Yochita. And this is Latvian, correct? The name?
Lithuanian.
Lithuanian. Okay. God damn it. I'm off my game today. I apologize. So Yusta Yochite. And I know I probably butchered that again. I will get it right at some point. But she was the Valkyries' first round pick. She makes her debut a couple weeks ago. Describe that environment, because again, she represents the future of the team. I'm going to safely say they're going to protect her. I think it would be pretty wild to have her one of the 6 unprotected in an expansion draft. I don't know where the logic would be with that. So let's say I'm gonna safely assume she's gonna be one of the 6. How did that go in terms of her finally making her debut in front of the fans? And are we going to see her as early as next year? If you don't mind elaborating on the Valkyries' first round pick.
Seeing her in person for the first time, you really get a sense of the length that she has. She's a perimeter player, but has great size to her, over 6 feet, but has a great passing ability. There've been a lot of comparisons to Luka Doncic with her. So being able to see that in person, because sometimes size doesn't translate well when you're just constantly watching film over a screen. But Golden State and the fans in Valhalla, like pretty much everyone else, they really welcomed her with open arms. There was such a loud ovation at Chase Center. Everyone got on their feet, and it is anticipated. The last I heard that she will be joining the team next year. But they have the rights to, so they drafted her, so they have the rights to her. But of course, she abstains and remains at Eurobasket to compete for Lithuania. And that was a really big deal for her. And so that's why Valkyries just still maintain, as of right now, the Valkyries have the right to her, which means that they intend on having her next season. And you're on mute.
Thank you for that. And I would agree with you on that, as I was trying to say. Have you had a chance to study any of her film from Lithuania? Like, have you had a chance to watch her game? And if you don't mind providing that analysis, what can we expect?
Can score at all 3 levels, so has a 3-point shot, a great mid-range. Because she's a big guard, she has that ability to just pull up and rise up over her defenders. Can score really crafty at the rim, really great vision and passing ability, like I mentioned as well. She's a big guard, so she sees over defenses a lot and has that ability to see the next play ahead. So a great facilitator and playmaker, and just a ton of upside to her as well, because she's so young.
Beautiful. That's and the anticipation will be exciting. And again, she's going to be joining a most likely, the magic number's 3, most likely a team that made the playoffs in their debut season. If there's any negative to your first year in existence being this good, is you're going to have some expectations in year 2. So there's going to be a little pressure. That's a good thing that comes with success. Is Natalie Nicase, I want to finish up the Valkyries talk with this. And again, I really wish FanDuel would have odds for Coach of the Year, but I've yet to see them available. Hopefully that'll be soon. Is Natalie Nicase a safe bet? Actually, I have one more thing to ask about the Valkyries after this, but is head coach Natalie Nicase a safe bet for Coach of the Year?
When I was reading a ESPN article a couple weeks ago talking about some of the front runners for these postseason awards, I believe one of our journalists, Alexa, Kendra Andrews, they were involved in this. I say Alexa because I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but it starts with a PH, has a couple L's and a couple P's.
Yuchite. No, I'm just kidding.
But when they had this article on ESPN, they predicted that Natalie Nicase would win Coach of the Year. And
awesome.
I think it's very difficult to not choose her. Other front runners will probably be Cheryl Reeve, head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, because her team has the best record And Carl Smesko is another name I've seen mentioned a lot, who is the head coach of the Atlanta Dream. He's a first-year head coach and took this roster to from not making the playoffs to now fighting for that second and third seed against the Las Vegas Aces. But my argument against those people who want those people would be both the Lynx and the Dream have 3 all-stars each.
Wow.
And so it is hard and difficult to manage talent. So a ton of credit for them to still be able to produce at such a high rate. But for the Valkyries, they only had one all-star who has not been on the roster the whole second half of this season post all-star break, in Kayla Thornton, who had season-ending knee surgery. And I just think that what Coach Nkaza has been able to do in her first year as a head coach for an expansion team, constantly just rewriting the formula on what this should look like in a new team, I think she has to be the front runner.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. If she doesn't win it, it's a travesty. What she's accomplished, and her background is so impressive. She started from the bottom up. She paid her dues on the NBA side. I think the earliest part of her career was being Doc Rivers' video coordinator. I think that's where she started, and she just kept impressing. And then she got promoted from the NBA to the WNBA and was under Becky Hammon. And then the Valkyries made the very wise decision to hire her as the head coach of the Valkyries. And here we are. And before we shift gears to talking about Steph here, one final question, if you don't mind, regarding the Valkyries, just because I'm looking at the standings, and the Valkyries are currently 6th in the standings with a 21-18 record. They're a game ahead of the Storm in the loss column. The Seattle Storm are 7th. The Indiana Fever are 8th. The Fever and the Valkyries have just a half game separating them. So between 6 and 8, it's very tight. And then the LA Sparks are the one team just trying to wiggle in there somehow. The Sparks are 2 games behind the Fever, 2.5 games behind the Valkyries to try and get in. Do the Valkyries own the tiebreak over the Sparks? Do you know?
Yes.
There you go.
They won the season series 3-1.
Oh, there you go. Yes. And that adds to the magic number being 3 for the Valkyries. What I'm looking ahead to is the Valks' potential first round matchup if they get in, if everything goes according to plan. The potential opponents in the first round, which will be a best of 3 series. It's going to be 1-1-1, one game at the home arena of the top seed, then one game would be at Chase Center, and then a potential third game, if necessary, would be back at the higher seed's home arena. That higher seed, in theory, could be either the Lynx, if Golden State falls to 8. It could be the Aces, who currently are the 2 seed. It could be the Atlanta Dream, who technically are the 3 seed, even though they're tied with the Aces record-wise. Or it could be the Phoenix Mercury. The New York Liberty is also a possibility, but that is unlikely to happen. But most likely, it's going to be one of those top 4 teams: Lynx, Aces, Dream, or Mercury. From my research, which comes nowhere near yours, I feel like, and I said this last week as well, I feel like the Atlanta Dream would be the ideal matchup for them next round of those 4 options. I don't think any of those options are something you're looking forward to. Those are great teams. But if you had your pick in terms of which team represents the easiest path for the Valkyries, and again, easy's we're speaking relatively here, the Atlanta Dream, I think, would be that team. Correct me if I'm wrong. And in your opinion, what would be the best case scenario for the Valkyries' first round playoff matchup?
Against the Minnesota Lynx, the Valkyries are 0-2 against them with 2 games remaining. Against the Las Vegas.
Sorry to interrupt. Real fast. Were those games close?
I want to say they were about 10-point margins.
So no. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Okay.
The Valkyries' record against the Las Vegas Aces is 1-3. That one win came early in the season when Valkyries had basically their whole roster, and it was when Las Vegas was still figuring things out. And post All-Star break, or just in the month, or the last 3 wins by the Las Vegas Aces have been relatively comfortable, I guess could call them. Against the Atlanta Dream, the Valkyries are 1-2. So they had a win post All-Star break where I think the Valkyries were relatively, or they were still experiencing injuries, and the Atlanta Dream had one injury. I believe Ryan Howard was out at that time. She's one of their all-stars. And the 2 losses have come at times when the Valkyries have had heavily injured rosters. So even this last loss against the Atlanta Dream is when there was a light scratch of Chachi Zandelazini and Tiffany Hayes. So there are only 8 or 9 available players for that game. So I think the Atlanta Dream is probably the one statistically, just based off of records and looking at your success rate, that the Valkyries will want. And then against the Phoenix Mercury, they are 0-4.
Ooh. Okay, so no Phoenix. Yeah, Phoenix has their number, right? Is that a safe thing to say? Like, those were not close games either, correct?
The first one was very close. The Valkyries actually had the lead that they then let slip at the end of the game, but that was also when the team was brand new or early in the season. So closing games was a foreign topic. And then the last 3 wins, just from what I can remember, were very strange in that one of them at home, it was won because of in my opinion, touchy foul that sent Alyssa Thomas to the free throw line. And then the other 2 wins were after what I mentioned, the Atlanta Dream game. They were after those. So the Valkyries were experiencing a very depleted roster. So they could still be in the mix. I would probably take them over the Aces or the Lynx.
All right, there you go. And when we do this episode next week, that picture I think will be a lot clearer. Me personally, again, just this is my take. I don't want the Valkyries to have anything to do with the Lynx. I don't want them to have anything to do with the Mercury. The Aces and the Dream seem to be, if you're gonna end up with one of those 4, I'm gonna hope for first and foremost the Atlanta Dream, and then the Las Vegas Aces, a very distant second. I don't want to see the Aces either. I don't want Asia Wilson. I don't want any of that. So I'm rooting for the Dream. I'm rooting for a Valkyries Dream. Excuse me, first round playoff matchup, because that's where I see a upset being most plausible. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, which I could very well be. And we shall find out. We're going to give some love to decades real quick here, and then we're going to talk about Steph Curry because he's turning 38. Oh my God, I didn't realize how long we're going. Sophia, it's impressive that we can now fill entire shows with Valkyries talk. If I didn't tease the Steph thing, I'd probably say let's just wrap up, but we'll touch on that in just a second because it is pertinent. It's actually very important for the Golden State Warriors. But first and foremost, let's talk about decades. They've been sponsoring our program all summer, a borderline deplorable summer when it comes to the Golden State Warriors because of the inactivity, because literally nothing is happening. Literally. I can't thank, first of all, we've had incredible guests on this program, and it's going to continue. We had Kristen Peak, Rick Bucher on the program recently. Kristen, in particular, providing some great insights in regards to the Jonathan Kuminga scenario, because Kristen Peak follows these athletes from high school on. Like, her entire business is talent evaluation, scouting, determining players at a very young age, whether they're going to make it in the NBA. And she reminded everyone of just how dominant of a player Jonathan Kuminga was in high school, and her entire mantra for the program was free JK, just free the man. Like whether it's with the Warriors, whether it's with another team, it's just time to give this kid a chance, right? Real minutes. And she was taken aback, by the way, when I brought up a stat that I've been saying repeatedly, that Kuminga's 18th in his draft class here after 4 years in minutes per game. That's absurd. And one way or another, this offseason has been tied directly to Kuminga. But Decades has thankfully, through all of this, been sponsoring us. Now, granted, it's been a very discount deal, and I gave them a month off. I had to because like it just didn't feel right to take money from someone for talking about just a Jonathan Kuminga standoff for 2 months straight. But they're supporting us, and I can't thank them enough. They play cover music for incredible events. This summer on their social media, they've been highlighting county fairs they're playing. They were just playing a set with the band Everlast. If you're not familiar with them, in the 90s and 2000s, they were like a kings of alternative rock. They were just playing sets with them. And you can hire this band for your event, whether it's like a wedding, whether it's an anniversary, whether it's a birthday. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you hire them for a backyard rager and you invite me, I'm coming. And it could also be a corporate event. It could be whatever your version of the Catalina wine mixer is. They're available for you. They can be your prestige worldwide. You're going to see them soon. If you go to 49er games, they play all the red zone rallies. These are the pregame festivities next door at Great America. They're playing those sets, and they could play for your event. They are phenomenal. Thank me later if you hire them. Email Kyle@atomicmusicgroup.com. Again, Kyle@atomicmusicgroup.com to book them, or just go to decadesofficial.com. You can contact them that way as well. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram @decadesofficial, and have the time of your life. And we, members of Dub Nation, have been having the time of our life watching Wardell's Stephen Curry since he first joined the Golden State Warriors. Before I talk about Steph and the numbers that I looked into, and the real Elise side note, thank you very much for the love, and same goes for everyone else. Kev F joined the party late, bringing up Osaka beating Coco Gauff in a terrific match today at the U.S. Open. So that means she's at the semis, right? Was that a quarterfinal match, Sophia, to the best of your knowledge?
It was round of 16.
Okay, all right. So quarterfinals.
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry. Okay, so there's 8 players remaining in tennis on both sides, and Naomi Osaka is one of those 8. So good for her. She used to be like the dominant force in tennis before taking a little reprieve for numerous reasons. She's back. And again, I don't. Do you actually play tennis, Sophia?
Nope.
I played in high school, and it's a sport I don't play enough. I've never touched a pickleball paddle. I hear great things about pickleball, but tennis, I love tennis. It's a fun sport. If you've never tried it, have some fun out there. Anyway, so Kev F joined the party late. We were talking about that at the beginning of the show. But the Stephen Curry thing, in terms of his numbers, I don't know if I've broached this with you yet, Sophia. Before we talk about the numbers, I wanted to ask you a question about perspective. And what I mean by that is from an outsider's point of view, if you look at the Jonathan Kuminga situation and the fact, as I mentioned a moment ago, he's 18th in his draft class in minutes per game. He has griped publicly repeatedly now a lack of opportunities playing for the Golden State Warriors. And it's a gripe that I think has a lot of validity to it. Stephen Curry, however, has stayed out of the fray, right? And that's what he does. He's not a GM. He's not a coach. And Stephen Curry is a basketball player, one of the greatest basketball players ever. And that's his focus is hoops, his family, his ventures. He is not the coach. He's not the GM. And so typically he stays out of the fray. At his own basketball camp 2 weeks ago, he feigned surprise, and it was genuine at the fact that the Golden State Warriors were inactive this entire offseason. He was literally clueless to the fact that the Warriors have done nothing and that they're only at 9 position players. The surprise from him was a little surprising to me. But it made me think as well, Sophia, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but Stephen Curry did not have the easiest start to a career either, right? He got drafted 7th overall, just like Jonathan Kuminga. He joins a Warriors team that is a player in Monte Ellis, who's very similar in so many ways, stature-wise, in terms of playing style. Shooting is where they differ tremendously, but I think defensively is where the similarity is particularly there. They're both smaller guards, and players with that physique can be exploited defensively. So when Steph first came to the Warriors, you suddenly had two players who the idea of them being on the court together did not sound like something that was conducive to success, right? Which is kind of funny because 10 plus years later, you have the Warriors entertaining Chris Paul and Stephen Curry in the background, and it's like, okay, we don't care about that stuff anymore. Clearly, we used to. Monte Ellis and Steph in the backcourt together was seen as an idea, a concept that just did not sound ideal. And Monte was eventually traded, but in those early years, Steph was fighting for minutes. Monte Ellis was griping. Like, Monte was very obvious in his feelings about having Steph as a teammate, and how the similarities would not result in Monte Ellis being happy with this scenario. Monte gets traded eventually. Stephen Curry has ankle issues that he required surgery that led to him getting that 4-year, $44 million contract, which was very team friendly and helped with the dynasty. My point is, it took Steph years to find his comfort zone. It took Steph years before he had coaches even who really just let him loose. I mean, I don't think Steph had any issues with Nelly per se, but Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr clearly unleashed something totally different in this man. And maybe that's what Jonathan Kuminga is going to need, is at some point another coach besides Kerr to truly unleash and nurture and support. My whole point is I didn't really think about the Steph part of this in terms of the similar experience that he had early in his career. And it might be one of the reasons why Steph has stayed out of all this, right? Like, to him, there could be just a lack of empathy in terms of a young player not just being handed things, not being entitled to minutes, to big contracts. And maybe Steph is sitting there going, JK, just, this is part of it. You have to sometimes deal with adversity early in your life and earn it in a way that other players don't have to, right? And because a lot of his draft peers were just handed these huge contracts without really proving a thing. And that's part of what Jonathan Kuminga's angst is why have I not been given this huge deal when my draft peers have, and what have they done for the most part? So anyways, thinking about the Stephen Curry perspective makes me think, okay, like that's why he's not more hands-on with this. And it's also maybe why Jonathan Kuminga should just kind of, just fight through this, and he'll make it out through the other side. Your thoughts on the Steph comparison in terms of the early parts of their careers?
Yeah, it's definitely something worth bringing up. At the same time, I think that just with Steph's ankle injuries, that also is a reason why you kind of look to a little bit of a slower start to his career, as opposed to Jonathan Kuminga, who didn't have, he's had injuries, but not those same issues. Chronic, more so, I guess is a good word to put it. And yeah, I mean, Jonathan Kuminga, he's still very young, so he entered the league younger than what Steph did. So that could definitely be a little bit of a comparison and something to look at. Like you said, that was that comment. I think that is in reference to the Mike Jones song, if I'm correct. And I actually have a cousin named Michael. So we always say, whenever me and my family, we see him, you're like, who, Mike Jones? That was funny.
Rico's always showing us a lot of love on this show. Thank you, Rico. And one more thing, I completely forgot about this until Bruce Morrow brought this up. Draymond with his prediction thing again. Quick diversion here for the show. Thank you, Bruce Morrow, for reminding me of that. Did you have it? Did you see this clip, Sophia? Do you have a chance? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So
I do.
So Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler have been working out together, and in one of these, and Jimmy's been posting these clips on his social media accounts. So have the trainer, I believe. And Draymond, yes, made another prediction. I don't know why this video is not playing. Hold on one second here. Let me play this for you. Hopefully it works. So this was Draymond. Yes. Boasting. I don't hate this. Some people may not like Draymond, having this level of confidence. I love it personally. I know he said last year he's going to win a championship. I still think they would have if injuries didn't factor into it. I also think if Jonathan Kuminga just got all of GP2's minutes, they would have also been a title contender. Not a title contender, a literal champion. With that said, here is Draymond Green making predictions. This was at the conclusion of a workout with Jimmy Butler, with various trainers. And these are very professional trainers. I mean, clearly, the fact that Dre and Jimmy are working with these guys says something. And Dre, yet again, yes, made a prediction. Here's Dre.
Great. We about 6 weeks out, right where I need to be, baby. And we're getting that bitch this year.
So there we go. So Draymond thinks they're going to get it this year. The B word referencing a ring. Do you like that confidence? Do you like that braggadociory, Sophia?
I do. I think that for every successful athlete and person in general, you have to have a certain level of irrational confidence, you could even say. And without that, even just if you looked at what he said in terms of manifestation, I think that you need to speak things into existence. There's a lot of power in the tongue. And so saying that stuff, and just for him, he's always going to say it. And then hope maybe it diffuses to the whole team. And if you can get enough of, like I said, some of that, I don't want to say irrational confidence, but just like confidence. Because sometimes you do need to do things that are outside of yourself a little bit, and you need to play a little bit above your level. But that's just where I said you need that in a team and in certain players. And so I like it. I'm all for it.
I 100% agree with you. And going just piggybacking off what you said about the power of talking, the power of the confidence and expressing yourself in that regard. I have two uncles who I'm blessed with. They're geniuses, like literal geniuses. They're both engineers. One, they have PhDs from like Stanford and Cal, and I look up to them. I don't know if I would have anyone to really have as a father figure with guidance without those two. But I bring them up largely because one of my two uncles, cancer survivor, and he beat it, and it was very serious, and I'm thankful every day for that. And during his recovery process, he really did research on the power of the mind. And what he found is that it is immensely powerful. Like what goes on up here in what we call a conscience, I guess. One of the last remaining mysteries biologically that we still have no clue about in so many regards. I'm a firm believer in that as well. The power of the mind. And Draymond Green is so mentally tough. I'll take him all day over not having him. I'm grateful. I mean, like, look, for example, like the real Elise, who I know you show tremendous amount of love to us on this program. Writing, he has cost us like 5 chips, though. Look, 5 is a gross exaggeration. I mean, you could maybe argue 1, and even then, like, was it his fault? But my pushback to anyone who says this level of rhetoric is always they don't have even 1 without him. Like let alone 4. Like I'm a firm believer in that the Golden State Warriors dynasty needed Draymond Green. They're not winning a single chip without him in any of these scenarios, regardless of whether or not he cost the team once or twice. But there were some funny comments in here, like the real Elise's adding the cheeseburgers. Did he look heavy to you? Money Chickup's also adding he looked heavy. I didn't see that. Did you?
I didn't see it.
I didn't think so either. Maybe it's just age and some skin sagging, maybe, or maybe you folks are just seeing something I'm not. But, and I really don't. I'm not a fan of bringing up this topic, but I do believe firmly in levity and humor. And Bruce Morrow brings up the receding hairline, and I only touched this subject for one reason. Sophia, if Draymond Green decides to go bald, I can't even picture that. Can you?
I can't. He can get himself some sacred edge drops. I've heard those work really well.
I don't even know what that means. What is that?
It's Beyonce's hair care line. It's like a serum drop that you put in your edges. That's what
for regrowth.
Yeah, for regrowth.
All right, so draining because the moment I pictured Draymond Green bald, like I don't know if I like it. I can't even like. He would look intimidating out there. I think that's the extent of what I can picture. I can picture like Draymond Green is already a pretty menacing figure on a basketball court. Draymond Green bald would be borderline frightening. Anyways, so there's some commentary from the audience in regards to Draymond Green. We're going way longer than I said we would, Sophia. I know you're exhausted. That was a long game last night. You turned basically into a baseball announcer because of that power outage and the shot clock issues. That's what baseball announcers do. They just fill all this dead air with like personal stories and interesting anecdotes. How did you feel that time?
A couple of spots, so ad reads. We did some of that. We played some sound from interviews. So what Coach Nakase has said, what head coach of the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White, who coached Veronica Burton last year in Connecticut, what she had to say about Veronica's growth. Some just, because we're not really receiving many updates, so we don't want to get into a long thing,
Right.
because in a minute, they could resume play again. So just try to, some stuff game relevant, some things big picture, what's going on in the league, playoff picture, a couple silly things, but I don't think we got too off base.
Well, yeah, you can't, right? I mean, you got but that's where I feel like you're really earning your money is moments like those, or you got to be a pro to fill all these gaps of uncertainty in moments like that. In your case, being the Valkyries having issues with first power, and then the power issues resulting in clock issues and delays, and yeah, in baseball, like that's half the battle. Is you sometimes you have rain delays, and you got to fill like a 6-hour broadcast. It's crazy, and that's where they're earning their money. So bravo to you for that. Steph Curry, let's finish on this note. Good news is I thought when I was going to do this research, I was going to find a lot more than what I actually did in regards to Steph and whether or not there was any decline from a year ago. Sophia, I asked you yesterday or very late last night, I apologize for that, to do some research on Steph and to see if there was any decline last year as he turned 37 years of age from both a quantitative and a qualitative approach. What I meant by that is quantitatively, are we seeing decline in measurables that are empirical, right? Like these are numbers that you can say objectively that, there's no gray area. And then qualitatively, like, are you seeing something with your own eyes that maybe represents signs of decline? For me personally, like just real quickly, qualitatively, I didn't see it. I don't see with my eyes a decline in his game. I think Stephen Curry is still at the peak of his powers. I still think Stephen Curry can lead a team to a championship, but I also am not going to be a fool and pretend that him turning 38 is not a factor that we can ignore. I mean, that's a very pertinent, important thing. Let's start with the qualitative side, Sophia. From an eye test perspective, from you being analytical, using just your brain and not factoring numbers into it, what have you seen with Steph this past season? And do you think there's any decline there as Steph? I'm doing the numbers real fast here just to see how many years he's played. He was a rookie in the 29-10 year. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. He's starting his 17th NBA season this year. Are you seeing decline? Your thoughts?
I don't know if I'm seeing decline. I think the most apparent way that you see his age and his ability to recover as quickly from injury. And that's why a lot of these injuries, they're a lot more cautious in his return to play process. What Bruce Morrow said in terms of decline in stamina, I think that's just the pounding that accumulates throughout one's career, especially on the joints. But I don't think that there's been a decrease in Steph's conditioning. That's something that he's always been peak level of condition. It does feel like he can run around the court all the time, but that's where the question comes if he should, because when you're dealing with injuries and battling, that's just extra pounding that you're experiencing on the joints that accumulates and is harder to recover from when you deal with either major injuries or either just these minor aches and pains.
Right. And I'll get to a couple of these comments in the chat here in regards to Steph. There are two numbers that did show a decline, though, on the quantitative side. And this does, to me, represent a slight concern. Because when we look at the figures overall, quantitatively, right, like in terms of the actual statistics, Steph did have a slight decline in a lot of categories, but he also played slightly less minutes. And to put it in perspective for you, Stephen Curry in his career has averaged 34.1 minutes per game. This past season, he played 32.2. So he played approximately 2 minutes less per game than we're accustomed to over his career. And these past two seasons, we've seen a bit of a decline with the minutes. Last year, again, 32.2. The year before that, 32.7. And then the year before that, 34.7. And then the 4 years ago when the Warriors won the championship last, Steph was playing 34.5 minutes per game. So last year went down to 32, 0.2. And there's a correlation there with slight dips in assist numbers, with slight dips in points. I mean, there are declines across the board. The two declines, though, that concern me a little bit, and I do think they reflect Stephen Curry getting older. One is his field goal percentage. Stephen Curry in his career, excuse me, I'm getting choked up talking about an aging Stephen Curry. This is what this topic does to me. Steph, you can't get old on this, my boy. Stephen Curry is a career 47.1% field goal percentage shooter. This past season, that number went down to 44.8. The year before that, 45. The only other season where there was a dip of substance, excluding the 2020 injury season where he played 5 games. We're not counting that season, obviously. The last year the Warriors won the title, if you folks forgot, Steph got into a massive months-long slump that coincided with his pursuit of the three-point record. It got in his head, and he admitted that after the fact, that when he got close to passing Ray Allen, pardon me, for the three-point record, he started thinking about it, and it affected his numbers and his three-point shot that season. Again, the year they won the championship, this is 2021, 2022, his three-point number was at 38%. His career three-point percentage is 42.3. His career field goal percentage, again, 47.1. 2022, it was at 43.7. So you exclude that season because, again, for like almost half the year, he was in this bizarre shooting slump because of the three-point record. Excluding that, this season with this past season was an anomaly. Again, 47.1% field goal percentage shooter. This past season, 44.8. Career-wise, 42.3% three-point shooter. This past season, 39.7. And there was also the number of 50-point. There's a few other things I'm going to point out in just a second here that concern me a little bit. But your thoughts on the analytics side, on the quantitative side. Did you find anything yourself that represented a decline in Stephen Curry's game?
Well, going to what you said, I think looking at some of those field goal numbers, field goal percentage and three-point percentage, that is also a reflection on who else is on the floor with him and the degree of difficulty of shots he's taking. So before, when he had Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant on the court, he was getting some great spacing, pretty much whatever he wanted within the flow of the offense. And that's not the same this season. It's been a lot more, just not as many three-point shooters on the roster, quite frankly. And I think you can also look towards Draymond Green, where Draymond has so many assists straight to Steph, And when Draymond is out, that also affects him as well. And I think just with the amount of injuries that Steph has experienced this year, there were certain periods where he was coming back and still trying to get into the flow of the game. So I guess that all is a little bit of a reflection of age, but also roster composition. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm off game in that regard. I put today. Apologize for that. Thank you. In the chat, Money Checkup brings up his steal numbers defensively. This past season, he averaged 1.1 steals per game. Career wise, he averages 1.5. But the steals have he actually the steal wise, those numbers were up this past year from the previous 2 years. The only part of his game, I'm sorry, that seemed to reflect a little decline from what I saw again. And I saw something else in the chat about his assist to turnover ratio. That is consistent. It was at 2.1 last year. His career assist to turnover ratio number is 2.1. So there was no change there. The part of his game that I saw that I think reflected a slight decline age-wise was looking at the month-to-month totals. Like I started looking at the game log, meaning and kind of seeing how he was doing over a month-to-month basis versus years past. And what I saw, and there was like a little decline. And that's the part of it that concerned me because case in point, in the month of October last year, and this was a very small sample size, but he only averaged 18.3 points per game. In the month of November last year, and that was a huge sample size. That includes some NBA Cup games. He only averaged 23.5 points per game. Month of December. And in case you're wondering, well, how does that compare to years past? It's far below. Maybe I should have mapped this out clearly for perspective, but it's below. It's lower than what we're accustomed to. In the month of December, he averaged only 21.5 points per game. Also very important to note that up until the end of the year of the calendar year 2024, he had not put up a single 40-point game yet, which was, I believe, the latest he'd ever gone in his career without one of those. January, same thing, 22.2 points per game. I think 3 games where he scored over 30 points, no 40-point games. February is where we saw an explosion from him. There were 2 months last year where he did put up big numbers, and February was one of those months, and a lot of that coincided with the trade for Jimmy Butler, and this is why I still love the Jimmy Butler trade and why I think Stephen Curry is so excited about having Jimmy as a teammate. February last year, and maybe this also shows that Steph isn't declining, he put up 30.7 points per game in the month of February. And that included his first game of the entire season where he went over 40 points. It was actually a 56-point game, and this was at Orlando at the end of February. And then the number went back down in March to 23.8. And then to finish up the season in April, a smaller sample size, he averaged 29.1 points per game. And in case you folks forgot, the Warriors were making a huge push for playoff positioning. They were a game below 500 before they traded for Jimmy Butler. So there was a lot of catching up to do in the rest of the season. But I guess the number that concerns me a little bit with all that's said and done is Stephen Curry, once upon a time, we were accustomed to huge explosions on a fairly consistent basis scoring-wise. Last year, I think he had, and I'm going to do this count right now, he scored 52 points on April 1st against Memphis. He scored 40 points March 6th at Brooklyn, so that's 2. He scored 56 points at Orlando on February 27th, that's 3. And that's it. Those are his 3 40-point or more games last year. And that's where I'm starting to see a little bit of a decline and I don't know if it's him just pacing himself more, but again, that's what happens when you get older. But the explosions are not there like they used to be. The scoring is down a little bit. The field goal and 3-point percentages are down a little bit. And my point in all this is not to criticize Stephen Curry. because again, the entire agenda that I have on this show is Steph getting a 5th championship. He's that great of an all-time player. And to me, it's criminal that he's stuck at 4 right now, that he deserves a 5th in terms of legacy perspectives. And that's what I fight for. That's my cause, if you will. But there is a little decline. And my point is, as Bruce Morrow wrote in the chat here a second ago, hold on, let me find that again real quick. Sorry, Bruce. Here we go. Bruce Morrow wrote in the chat that Steph should play like 28 minutes a game this year. And I guess that's why Kuminga should be re-signed. That's absolutely why the Warriors need a player like Jonathan Kuminga, because your best players are aging. Even if the decline is very subtle, you're going to need some reinforcements. You're going to need some backup. And this goes to the Kuminga contract offer and the fact that they're lowballing him. They're offering limited minutes because they want freedom to maybe get LeBron, maybe freedom to get Giannis, whatever the big plan is that Joe Lacob is scheming. You're going to need Kuminga to come back, and you're going to need him to be happy, because I do think there is a small decline in Stephen Curry's game. I'm done. I'm going to shut up now. Your thoughts, Sophia?
Well, going just on the last point that you talked about with re-signing Jonathan Kuminga, that aging process will only be exponentiated for Steph if he has to carry a lot more weight on his shoulders. And I think that's why we see some of the numbers this year and why they only increased after Jimmy Butler got there, because it was just another option to go to. And for Steph, a lot of times for him, it's having another ball handler bring the ball up the court and having just that primary ball handler, so he can be a little bit off ball, not have to handle that responsibility every single time. And not a ton of that was present this season on a consistent basis. So that's where obviously there still are indications of decline, but I think that a lot of those are reflected in just the way that the roster is set up.
Yeah, and Macho Man, did I get that right? Yeah, Macho Man saying that Kuminga doesn't play like Steph's size, more rim attacker. I'm not saying they're similar, but my point is, sorry to be redundant here, but you need points. I mean, that's the whole game. And Jonathan Kuminga last year, despite all the issues, was still the 3rd leading scorer on this Warriors team. You need his points. You need his energy, his athleticism. I am not saying they're the same player. They're not even close to the same player, but they do, in their own ways, still produce. And they're still giving you energy, and they're still putting defenses on their heels. You need that in some regards for all those non-Steph minutes. And if Kuminga, and this is where I just don't understand the management of unless there's stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, and there probably is. I don't understand this approach of trying to lowball Kuminga and trying to, they can afford to give him like $25 million a year this season. They can afford to give him a 3-year guaranteed deal. He'd be happy if you did stuff like that. Just end this, please. I'm begging the Warriors, end this. Give us something to talk about. Good news is Rick Bucher and Kristen Peak these last 2 days gave us a lot. Sophia, you join us every week. You give us a ton of exciting content, thought-provoking, riveting content. The Valkyries are kicking ass. The Warrior season we're about a month and change away. It is insane that we've gone this far and there's still no action. That part is wild. It happens sometimes. Holdouts, standoffs. The WNBA might go through a full-on lockout soon. I mean, if you want drama, Jesus, let's hope it doesn't get to that point. It's part of the business. And unfortunately, the business side creeps over into the fun part of it. And here we are. Any last thoughts, Sophia, before we wrap it up? It went way longer than we were supposed to, and I apologize for that. Thank you for putting up with me and the program. Any final thoughts?
Of course, I'll just say Golden State plays the New York Liberty tomorrow at 7 p.m. It's another game at home at Chase Center. I'll be on 95.7 The Game with Deuce Mason broadcasting that.
Do you miss Kevin Dana, or is Deuce filling the void pretty nicely?
I've really enjoyed working with both of them. Had a lot of time to get to know Deuce yesterday, I can tell you that.
I don't know Deuce at all. I hope to meet him someday, but obviously Kevin Dan is my boy. And you're my girl. And thank you, Sophia. Thank you to the audience. Is there anything we forgot as we wrap it up here?
Don't believe so.
All right.
Just hoping the Valkyries get to that magic number of 3 now.
I can't believe it's 3. I love it. The Valkyries have a magic number, and it's a small number. Stay tuned. We got you covered every week. Sophia Jones has you covered every game, and those games are all streaming on the Odyssey app. All the home games are also on terrestrial radio, and 95.7 The Game is where you can catch Valkyries games audio-wise here in the San Francisco Bay Area, anywhere in the world on the Odyssey app. Those games are streaming, and you're providing coverage as a color analyst during the games and after the game for post-game coverage. It's exciting stuff, really exciting stuff. Congratulations on everything, Sophia, as always. I'm checking to see if there's any comments I missed. I had a few highlighted real quick. The real Elise saying we need to do a show together. Just hit me up, email me. I'll happily do one with you. Bruce Morrow is saying Steph's shot selections got poorer with too many minutes. That's an interesting take. Kenneth Sakai, I think we addressed this already. Oh, yeah, we did. We already talked about the Valkyries, and there are 6 players. And Tim Ford, we'll end with this note, is asking, when are you going to be doing TV games? Have they asked you to do that yet? Or is it 1 year at a time?
1 year at a time. I've really been enjoying my role on the radio this year, having a blast. It's just been such an honor to be considered for this position and to be a small part of what's being history.
It is. It is historic. Absolutely. Go Valks, go Dubs. And tomorrow we got a doubleheader. We got 2 shows. Peter Vesey. Do you know, Sophia, you've been around the game your whole life. But with that said, I would understand if you don't know who this person is. Are you familiar with the name Peter Vesey? Peter Vesey once upon a time was, I'm trying to think who the comp is. I don't know if it's Mark Spears. He was he was a reporter, a columnist, but he was also like a strong TV presence. Like he was on those panels with the all-time greats, having debates with them, and he knows his hoops. He's been long retired, but if you're an old school NBA person, you clearly know who Peter Vesey is. For the young folks, you might learn a thing or two. He joins the show tomorrow, and then tomorrow night, Mark Haynes and I are going to be starting a weekly show. It's going to be the I-80 crossover where Believe in Kings, that's the show he hosts, converges with Golden Days. It's just NorCal basketball. And the Warriors and Kings have been very synonymous this offseason, largely because the Kings supposedly are interested in trading for Jonathan Kuminga. They just have to, just like the Warriors, not offer low ball amounts, and maybe something would happen there. But nonetheless, that's what's upcoming on the program. David Rushing, the mayor of NBA Threads, will join us Wednesday. That'll be a live show with the audience involved if you want to join us. And that's what's coming up. And otherwise, again, the Valkyries have a lot of games upcoming. That's exciting. That the magic number is 3. And I think I'm tapped. I imagine you're tapped. Are we done?
Think so.
Bye-bye.